Wait, okay. So one thing I didn't really think about, and that I figured that it'd be about confidence would be my largest issue, but then the more I think about it, it might be actually just like people are aggressive and upset or something about what I'm doing. Maybe they feel like that they wanted to do it, or maybe they do it, but I don't know. The case is kind of like doing something different. It reminds me so much of like the crab pot, and like the crabs that want to get out, but the rest of the crabs don't want that crab to get out, so they're like upset about what the crab's doing. I figure so much. I don't even know if the lighting's alright. It's probably dark. But the thing is, like, I understand the feeling about people who don't really want to like take risk and do stuff like that, because most people are sort of conditioned that way. It's just, it's kind of sad that people are of that sort. But then again, I understand that not everyone can really do what's not practical, and have like support from people who are like way more. I guess I'm lucky that I have opportunity to do something like this. In all actuality, I know most people, their necessities are that they have to focus on other things, and for me to have this opportunity just to do this as not as a dilettante, but something as like a sort of semi-serious, that it really upsets a good segment of people who are told that maybe they can't or shouldn't do something of the sort. Which, I mean, there's two spectrums to that. One spectrum is I'm gonna like inspire people. The another spectrum is I'm gonna upset a lot of people pretty bad. I think that's just a part of it. Why most people like do it at home, I figure, is just because they don't like the interaction. But to have the interaction is like the good with the bad. I think it's more of a kind of potent like change in life, where everything is more frantic and things are more different. It's not like a New York stage, but it's still Seattle's a growing city, so it's gonna be upheaval of some sort, and people are not gonna like it for that. It's just, I mean, if it's like a 1 or 2 off video, then like, yeah, sure, it's not really a matter to me. I'll just make it, then dump it. But if I start to take it semi-seriously, and I start like doing different things on the channel and like bring it back, then I take it to the next level. I know I haven't done that yet, but I'm sure it's really gonna upset quite a bit of people. Not just like troublesome like strangers, but just like the system around that people are so used to and they've gotten accustomed to. Which, I mean, if the system doesn't serve me, and like I'm not really involved in, I'm not playing along, I don't have like a family, everything's squared away, then yeah, I'm gonna try to do different things, and I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb, because the other option is just to like quietly, I guess, die away. And I don't want to do that. That's the last thing I want to do. I definitely don't want to be like a self-pity party. I figure that's the worst. There are times, like, I think everyone at times they pity themselves, but to be like 100% self-pity is a terrible thing. And just, I think people of maturity understand that there's a certain point where if you want to do something and you say you're going to do it, then you might as well do it. I know people like almost my age who say they want to do it, but they don't quite do it. So is it that they pity themselves, or that they don't do it? I don't know. Maybe they're not comfortable. Maybe they don't have the opportunity. I know I have the opportunity to at least try at it, and I'm not going to really like give up on it, because it's not something I want to do, and not something that I want to happen. With all the good comes a risk, and some of the risk I know it seems like it's not worth it now, because I don't know the future, and I don't know like how well it's gonna work out. Being like some days I only record 2 videos. Today might be 3. I don't know if I really want to upload the one in Capitol in Queen Anne. That was kind of bizarre, having like my first interaction, how to approach it. I figure most people just cut it out, but since this is kind of exercise, I may just cut it out for like reasons, and then just go from there. Because yeah, sure, I actually got some good like motivation from the first person I spoke to. I suppose that if I stayed longer, it might have been a different interaction, but I can't coddle myself. Eventually I'm going to come across people who are like upset with me and like don't like what I'm doing, and they get upset or jealous. I suppose that's a part of it. Like to have a few, like to have friends, and like you do it, then you're protecting your shell and it's confidence, and things don't really go bad. But I think the more you get into it and the more I become if I become a nuisance, right, it's gonna invoke other people to get upset easier, and that's kind of a part of it that I can't really worry about because that's just human nature. And for me to be more personal, that's gonna set me to be like around other people and do other things. So I guess it's a mixed bag of sorts. Some things are gonna be like acceptable, and other things it's just like I have to cut out. I can see why some people just cut out a lot. It's not because it's boring always, it's because sometimes some interactions are just wrong. And plus I think as a culture here, people are very concerned about how they look, so that's probably why a lot of people don't start up anyway, just because they feel like they're lost in a whole bunch of other people, which I understand. It's just, that's not me, and I don't want it to be me, so I'm not gonna let that happen. And geez. Plus, without much traction, I can't really get many people's minds to follow my ideas. So I have very little influence on what's going on around people. So to that extent, it's still like when things are fledgling, I'm not at where I'm at. It's not what it's gonna be for what it's gonna be. It's hard to say. Yeah, I'd rather not make this a short video either, so I'll probably just walk around a little bit more to think about. I mean, it's good reflection for like what is happening, but I think it's more of this is not just a confidence lesson today, this is more of me figuring out how people treat people who do things differently. I mean, I guess it's a tricky subject because most people are kind of in the wavelength where, well, like I was saying before, most people in Seattle don't care. It's only, I think, a negative bias that when you see one person really get into it, you think that everyone's like it, but that's not the truth. So even though I think I'm gonna definitely make it more concise when I chop everything down and I start like interacting a lot, and these become way more like personal. But for now, it's just, I guess, confidence and just getting used to being a nuisance. It's weird. I thought it would have been easy, but I guess it's not as easy as I thought to like not care. Most people say like not care about other people, but it's like, I think that's the hardest lesson to get through, because it's probably the hardest part of it. The other parts are coming easier. Seeing as like no one news added on, and there's a base level, like I think a certain amount of subscribers, that it just feels like it's harder to see where it's heading. And I don't know, I don't think that's the city's fault. I don't think it's my fault. I think it's just starting up something new and different is kind of, it's harder. Today's definitely not just about like walking around and like getting feedback, but I think it's definitely about learning good and bad feedback's gonna happen. I just have to get used to it because that's kind of how life is. And I mean, like, to the truth is, it's already an advantage to just have the ability to do something that most people don't have or don't want to do, because it's easy to watch, but I guess it's harder to make, and it's even harder to make when you're maybe not in a big city that does this kind of thing, or you're not like in a popular area that does it usually, so you're kind of like a sore thumb. And being a sore thumb, I know probably really upsets some people, but then again, that comes back down to like, it shouldn't really matter at all how it does. Remember, because the light's a lot darker in the winter time, that I don't even know how the sensors can run, because I know it doesn't peak when it gets high amounts of like light, but when it's a lot lower, I really don't know how well or bad it is. I'll find out later when I take it through the editor, but for now it's kind of just hard to tell. Plus, I mean, just to commit to something of this sort is kind of weird, and I don't know if it helps that people don't know who I am, or would it help if people knew who I was? Because I suppose one way is that it would get more respect on doing it, but then on another way, it's sort of like I'd be stopped a lot more. So it's kind of I guess a 50-50. And starting out, I may think like, oh, it's so much cooler not to be so popular. But then again, why would I do it if it byproduct is probably the possibility, good chance that I'd probably become a lot more popular than if I didn't do it? That's kind of a good question. And a question I can't really answer, so I just leave it at that. And it's starting to turn emo. That turned emo fast. So yeah, I'll probably just upload only 2 today and just leave it at that, because I think today is more of a thinking day than a recording and like walk around exercise. So much as it seems more like a reflection. I figure once I get really going, then yeah, it'll be more interesting. But for now, it's just, I guess, part of the exercising and the process, which it's gonna keep changing as it goes. It's not static, but it's not like school where the course is outlined. I think it's more of just a dynamic learning, and it almost makes me wonder how far a lot of those people were who were like doing this kind of thing, which can see how I see very few, maybe like 2 or 3 people. Other than that, I don't see much happening about that, which is fine. Well, that's all I can think about right now.